Everyone.
Doing all right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our meeting, our regular Board of County Commissioners meeting for Monday, April the 1st, 2019. I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask Commissioner Sullivan if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd also ask you to please join us as we offer a moment of silence, remembering all the good things in our lives, and also remembering the first responders here in our community and all the military men and women who serve our country both here and abroad. Thank you. Okay. First item of business is additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda. It looks like we have a couple of modifications to announce. One is on item 7D, and that is staff has been updated to include the library director in the FRS senior management classification. And item 8B, and that resolution has been updated, and the changes will be discussed during the presentation of the item. So I don't think we have to adopt any new other additions, correct? It's just the modifications, Mr. Cameron?
Just modifications, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Announcements by the chair. As a reminder, our Board of County Commission meetings are broadcast via YouTube. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the live streaming process, there may be unavoidable delays, and when the meeting has concluded, it is typically posted within 24 hours and can be viewed again in its entirety. Flagler County would like to ensure everyone receives important messages in a significant emergency or disaster, and to sign up for our Alert Flagler or the Special Needs Registry, please visit our website, www.flaglercounty.org/emergency, or you can call 386-313-4200 for information and registration assistance. On Friday, March the 29th, the Parks and Recreation staff worked with the Community Problem Solvers group, Save Our Skin, and installed the sunscreen dispensers at the Bing's Boat Ramp restroom and Wadsworth Park concession stand restrooms. 2 more installations are scheduled this week, one at Barn Park restrooms and the other at Malacompra restrooms. Great. I worked with the students, great group of kids, and proud of the work they're doing, as we have a lot of future problem-solving groups around the county, and they do an excellent job in lots of different ways, and it's really very heartening to see the engagement that they have with their community. The Flagler County Youth Fair and the Flagler County Fair and Youth Show begins Wednesday, April the 3rd, and runs through Sunday, April the 7th. And for more information and the list of the events, you can go to the FlaglerCountyFair.com website. And Household Hazardous Waste Disposal Day, and I have some in my garage, so I'm sure other people might as well, is on Saturday, April the 6th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Coquina City Hall in Bunnell. Also, another announcement is that I believe Commissioner Mullins is excused for today, so it'll be the 4 of us.
Mr. Chairman, I heard a rumor that Mr. Mullins was elected to the Augusta City Council, and from now on he'll be splitting his time between here and there.
I don't know if that's true or not, but wouldn't surprise me.
April Fools.
Okay, it's April Fool's. Okay. Got it.
Big golf event coming up there.
You better hope that's
ready.
clarified, sir. All right. Board council vacancies. Flagler County is soliciting registered voters residing in Flagler County for various citizen volunteer boards and councils, and some of these positions by law must be filled by persons currently representing certain occupations or residing in a specific area of the county. And these positions will remain open until filled, and please respond as soon as possible for consideration, if you please. We have one member needed for the Affordable Housing Advisory Council, and that member needs to come from labor or the home building industry. We have 3 members needed for the Contractor Review Board, 1 plumbing contractor, 1 roofing contractor, and then an engineer or architect contractor. We have 1 member needed for the Economic Opportunity Advisory Council, and that person should represent the finance, investment banking industry. And then we have 1 member for the Land Acquisition Committee, which is a citizen at large, another citizen at large member needed for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and then a member needed for the Tourist Development Council that's involved in the tourist industry only. And again, all those positions will remain open until filled, and you can get more information and applications at our website, which is flaglercounty.org, or again, to call Ms. Christy Mayer at 313-4094. Just a couple of announcements about upcoming meetings or workshops. We have a meeting scheduled for, this says Monday, but it's Wednesday, April the 3rd, and that'll be a Board of County Commissioners workshop, and it's going to be 8 a.m. Normally, we have our workshops at the EOC, but that will be in the chambers here, correct, Ms. Christie? Just double checking that. And I believe we'll be discussing Bing's Landing.
And what's the time again on it?
8 a.m.,
8 o'clock?
not 9 o'clock, 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Okay? And then our regularly scheduled next Board of County Commissioners regular meeting is Monday, April the 15th, 5 o'clock right here in the Commission chambers. I believe that concludes our announcements by the chair. And we'll move into recognitions, proclamations, and presentations. And we have a couple of recognitions, and I would ask if, let's see, where are we here? Okay, if Pam Wu, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, and Human Resources Director, and help me out. We have some employees that we want to recognize for their long service to the county, and I'll read them if you wouldn't mind. If you would please come up, and Pam will help you out with that, with the certificate, and we'll take a photo. We have Mr. Richard Gordon, 30 years. We have Elizabeth Lemon, also 30 years. We have Eugene Williams, also at 30 years. We have Alan Perella, 20 years. Antonio Beza, 15 years. Frank Barbuti, 15 years. Marilyn Franco at 15 years. Miss Janet Nichols, 15 years. Jeffrey Olson, 15 years. Steve Palmer at 15 years. And Scott Raimundi at 15 years. Mr. Brian Spivey at 15 years. If everyone could just please join me in one more round of applause for all these great folks. All right, we have to do our specialty now, folks. We have to take a photo if that's okay. Congratulations. Thank you, everybody.
Good going, guys.
Okay. As the other commissioners will attest to, besides public safety, one of the most important things for us to focus on is quality of life issues. And a huge contributor to quality of life issues is the health of our community, and I mean the mental and physical health of our community. And so recently, our health department and the county broke into the top 10 in rankings for the healthiest counties in Florida, which is a huge achievement. We went from 14 to 9 from 2018 to 2019, and if you go back 5 years, we made an 18-point jump from 27th in the state to where we are today at what are we at, 9, I guess? 9, which is really fantastic. So we want to recognize the great work of our county health department, and I see you're here, Bob. Would you like to come forward, please? And maybe you have a few words? Okay. Gretchen, come on up.
Yeah, bring up his assistant there. Come on, we haven't seen you in a while.
She got a new job and then she hides.
That's right.
It helps in so many ways. It helps us with economic development issues. It helps us with, as I said, with the quality of life. And so please, Bob, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much. Bob Snyder, Administrator of the Health Department, and to my left is Gretchen Smith, our Public Information Officer. We just want to thank you all so much, and Mr. Cameron, thank you as well. Just a few years ago, we were ranked 27th, and we're now number 9, broke the top 10. And, of course, it's a reflection of our health department and wonderful employees and the effectiveness of our clinics, our dental program, WIC program, our diabetes intervention activities that have just started in partnership with the foundation, our HIV clinic, and so many things. But it also is a reflection of our community coming together through organizations like the Flagler Cares Coalition, to address issues like the high suicide rate in our community, and we're doing something about it. Another example would be all the grants that Flagler Cares Coalition were able to get to address behavioral health and mental health issues that affect our children in our community, or the Safety Coordinating Council, and taking on the issue of homelessness and all the mental health issues that are associated with that. So we have done great work. We should be so proud as a community, and it's not going to be long because of the efforts of your efforts and all of you in the room. We're going to be number 1 before you know it. So St. Johns County, watch out.
There we go.
So thank you all so much for this wonderful recognition.
And thank you, Bob. We have a certificate for you, which we would like to present
Great.
to you. Have a photo? Sure. We just like to do that every once in a while.
Probably come up here.
Yeah, sure.
Ready? Here we go. Couple more. That should do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes, Mr. Cameron.
would like to just say that this isn't just another accomplishment. This is a serious benefit to the county.
Yes, sir.
This is an intensive process, and our school board and our health department continue to advance every year. And the school rankings and the health rankings of a county determine the quality of its future growth. The people that pay attention to these things and want to move here are generally make very good citizens, and I am excited about that. And when I see the progress they're making, and I can't help but think that maybe St. Johns County is in jeopardy.
They should be. We're coming for them.
And I want to work closely with both the school board and the health department. Particularly, the health department has a couple of challenges that as a community we all need to be aware of. And one of those is the suicide rate. We're the highest in Florida. We need to work on getting that message out and the resources out. The other is bloodborne diseases caused mainly by drug use and things of that nature. We get those two things addressed, and we will jump again in the rankings. So I just want to thank the health department for what they've done, and just remind everybody of how important that is for our community. Thank you, sir.
Sir, good word.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
And also, I think hopefully we can add a little bit of something to this recognition by giving him a new roof later on in the meeting here.
We do have that in the plans,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner. Until that's done, we have issued umbrellas.
It's going to rain.
Okay. Again, thank you. All right. Our first proclamation is Fair Housing Month, and I'm going to go take the liberty of reading that one. Whereas April 11, 2019 marks the 51st anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 as amended, which enunciates a national policy of fair housing for all who live in the United States of America. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, handicap, and national origin, and encourages fair housing opportunities for all. And whereas Flagler County, as a recipient of Community Development Block Grant funds, has an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing. And whereas economic stability, community health, and human relations in all communities are improved by diversity and integration. And whereas the Flagler County Association of Realtors and the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee are committed to highlight the Fair Housing Act by continuing to address discrimination in our community, to support programs that will educate the public about the right to equal housing opportunities, and to plan partnership efforts with other organizations to help assure everyone of their right to fair housing. And whereas the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics commits all realtors to providing equal professional services without discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, handicap, sexual orientation, gender identity, and national origin. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim April 2019 as Fair Housing Month in Flagler County, Florida, to establish Flagler County as an inclusive community committed to fair housing, encouraging the promotion of appropriate activities by private and public entities intended to provide or advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Flagler County, and begins a year-long commemoration of the Fair Housing Act and urge all citizens to wholeheartedly recognize this celebration throughout the year. Adopted this first day of April 2019, attested to by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Court and Comptroller, and signed by myself, Donald O'Brien, Chair. Is anyone here from the Realtors Association? Good morning.
I'm actually the chair of the Affordable Housing
You are,
Advisory.
Sandra. Thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
you coming.
And we actually have Mr. Rodney Lucas with City of Bunnell, Community Development Director, and Ms. Lydia Gregg. You guys would join me up here with Mid-Florida Housing Partnership.
Thank you, Sandra.
We're here to receive it. Ralston should be en route.
Okay. Is there anything you want to share or?
Yes,
I don't wanna
on
put you
April
on
the
the spot.
20th, on April the 27th here in Flagler County, we will be having our housing fair. And I was appointed, thank you again, by the county commission as a low-income advocate. And we have been working very, very diligently to address the issues that you have outlined in the proclamation. It's very important to us to make the public aware of the need for affordable housing and the Fair Housing Act, and to ensure that the rights of our citizens are not being violated in our community.
Okay.
Like to say
Anybody
anything?
else? Or?
I'd like to invite everyone in the room to our observance of Fair Housing Month on April 27th at the FCAR building. It's from 10 to 2. There's something for everyone.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you again for coming forward. Can I give you?
Right. We all ready? Here we go. Couple more will be good. Thank you so much.
You need a resolution, right?
Propose a resolution to support the Fair Housing Proclamation.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next up, looks like we have National Library Week, and Commissioner Sullivan, if you could help us out with that.
Right, and people, Holly can come forward. A proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners designating the week of April 7th through 13th, 2019 as National Library Week in Flagler County, Florida. Whereas today's libraries are not just about books, but what they do for and with people. And whereas libraries of all types are at the heart of cities, towns, schools, and campuses. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions where people of all backgrounds can be together and connect. And whereas libraries and librarians build strong communities through transformative services, programs, and expertise. And whereas libraries, which promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all, are cornerstones of democracy. And whereas libraries promote civic engagement by keeping people informed and aware of community events and issues. And whereas librarians and librarian workers partner with other civic organizations to make sure their community's needs are being met. And whereas libraries and librarians empower their communities to make informed decisions by providing free access to information, and whereas libraries are a resource for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or social economic status, by offering services and educational resources that transform lives and strengthen communities. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week. Now, therefore, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through 13th, 2019 as National Library Week in Flagler County, Florida, and encourage all residents to visit the library this week and explore what's new at your library and engage with your librarian. Because of you, libraries transform. Adopted first day of April 2019. Tested Tom Bexley, Clerk of Court. Signed by Flagler County Board of Commissioners Donald O'Brien, Chair. Well, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Albanese, Library Director. I thank you for recognizing the library for National Library Week. What Carl just passed around, he's our president of the Friends, in case everybody's forgotten.
Can't forget Carl.
No. He passed around the bag, which contains one of my recommended reads for the adult reading program. As you know, we do a summer reading program, and I take this opportunity to announce it. This year, our theme for all reading programs is a universe of stories, and inside is one of my recommended reads. But what I'd like to focus on, Carl will come up and talk about the programs for National Library Week and the month of April, is about libraries. And libraries, the theme this year for American Library Association is libraries equal strong communities. And I think that's true of every library. We provide services, programs, and resources that the community needs, and by doing that, we save money. How do we do that? Well, we started about a year ago keeping a statistic. So if you use the library and you check something out, at the bottom of your receipt, it will tell you how much you saved by using the library. We now collect that, and we combine and we get a total statistic, so we can tell you how much you are actually saving. So the more you support your library, the more we're able to provide, the more we save our community, and they can then use those dollars that they might have spent buying a book or whatever, and they can use it towards housing, towards food, towards utilities. So we started this, like I said, last January. The monthly totals for the month of February was $348,000, $445 and 47 cents. The annual total, which is a fiscal total, that means as of October 1st, was a little over $2.1 million saved. And it's been collecting a total since we started this statistical service, and it started in January of 2008. Our total since January 2008 for savings to this community is a little over $9.2 million. So truly, through support of this library system, we are building a strong community. So I thank you, and I'm going to let Carl talk about the upcoming programs and the Friends of the Library. Thank you.
Holly, just one question. Do you factor in a value for the use of the computers as well? Or?
That number is just for books, audiobooks, DVDs. That does not take into consideration ebooks. We have no way of capturing that number right now.
Right.
So that does not take into consideration programs. For instance, we provide computer classes. Doesn't take into consideration how much you're saving by getting the class at the library for free, seeing a movie at the library for free. Certainly not use of the computers or our wireless. You know how expensive wireless is at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does not take into consideration all that other stuff. This is just purely books, audiobooks, and DVDs.
Thank you for clarifying.
I'd like to start off by thanking the County Commission and county employees for their help with the homeless situation from the Friends of the Library. I've had some comments from patrons at the library that they appreciate it, and I'd like to thank you for that. We have two programs coming up, the first of which is this Friday for National Poetry Month. Frank Constantino, winning author, National Award-winning author, will have a program there, 2 p.m. Friday. And then Martha LeMasters, the author of this book, will speak on Friday, October 26, 2019, at 1 p.m. at the Flagler County Library. These programs are supported by the Friends of the Library, and we just wrapped up a series on Flagler Reads Together on the Apollo 11 landing. The Eagle Has Landed by Jeffrey Smith, and we had good attendance throughout, so it's a good program. And we just wrapped up a book sale, successful, and we are talking about a huge clearance on March 30th. So we're going to, pardon me? May 30th, March 30th.
You missed it.
You know, when you're retired, the only way you know what day it is you take a pill and it says M, that must be Monday, you know.
I've been going to the book sales for years, and they just keep getting more and more popular.
Oh, incredible values. Just incredible.
The only downside is it's tight in that room.
The big book sale is going to be outside.
Oh, great.
So we're going to open it up and just have what we're calling a liquidation sale. We're trying to get rid of a lot of stuff and free up space. So that's in May. So please watch for that. They did make $2,000 at this last book sale, so they did very well.
And that money gets plowed back into the programs, like the children's programs this summer.
Yeah. Great. Okay. You have to get a photo. Sorry.
Go, 1, 2, 3, couple more, we're good, thank you.
Motion to approve the proclamation for National Library Week.
Second?
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimous. We have another proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month in Flagler County, and I'm going to do the honors on that one. Is anyone? That one. So I'll go ahead and read this. Whereas Flagler's future depends on nurturing the healthy development of children in our state, and whereas the abuse and neglect of children can cause severe, costly, and lifelong problems, and whereas every child has the right to be safe, healthy, and happy, where they are educationally and developmentally on track, and whereas research shows that parents and caregivers who have support systems and know how to seek help in times of trouble are more resilient and better able to provide safe environments and nurturing experiences for their children. And whereas individuals, businesses, schools, and faith-based and community organizations must make children a top priority and take action to support the physical, social, emotional, and educational development and competency of all children. And whereas the blue and silver pinwheel stands as a symbol of the health and happiness of all children, that all children deserve, and whereas during the month of April, in collaboration with the Governor's Office of Adoption and Child Protection, the Florida Department of Children and Families, and the Ounce of Prevention Fund of Florida in Flagler County supports the statewide campaign promoting awareness of healthy child development, positive parenting practices, and the types of concrete support families need within their communities. Now, therefore, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Flagler County, and urge all citizens to engage in activities whose purpose is to strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for healthy child development. Adopted this first day of April 2019, attested by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller, and signed by myself, Donald O'Brien, Chair. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Evelyn Lynham. I am the Department of Children and Families Circuit 7 Client Relations Coordinator. And I would like to invite every single one of you, everybody in the audience, okay, on April 5th, wear blue. It's in recognition of child abuse prevention. Next Monday, which is April 8th, from 5 to 7 p.m., we will be in the Target parking lot. This is our second annual prevention. Basically, it is a block party. We have a lot of people coming out. It's family friendly. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make this more of a family-oriented type of block party so we can bring families together. We're teaching parents how to engage with their children, how to do special things. We have rock painting. We have a lot of the community providers that are coming out to do activities with children. We have faith-based that are coming out as well.
We also have a lot of entertainment. We have a lot of the school system, some of the kids coming over. So we would really invite you to come out. We're very passionate about this to really change the perception of what we do. We have a substance abuse mental health program office. We have adult protective services. We have access, if anybody knows what that is. That's food stamps, Medicaid, all those sorts of things. And we have, of course, child protection. So we want to kind of get you to know who we are. And, of course, in this room right now, we have several partners. We have the Sheriff's Department. We have the Family Life Center. We have a lot of community partners that have come together with us, and, of course, all of you. And thank you very much for having us today.
What time would the event be at Target?
Good question. 5 to 7 p.m.
I went last year and walked through, and you could just feel the energy and the caring and the commitment of all the folks that were there and, talking about and sharing their services. So
Absolutely. And we actually have grown. I believe we now have almost 28 providers and people that are coming out. We have actual theaters that are in our community that have partnered with us to be able to provide some of those, what we call out-of-the-box services for our children and our families to be able to engage those family and kids, because we do know if we have a stronger family, we're going to have stronger children and a stronger community. Thank you.
Okay. I have a proclamation for you.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the the Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we also have another proclamation on Crime Victims' Rights Week, and I believe you can do that, Commissioner Hanson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proclamation, Flagler County Board of County Commissioners, proclaiming April 7th through 13th, 2019 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Flagler County. Whereas in 1982, the President's Task Force on Victims of Crime envisioned a national commitment to a more equitable and supportive response to victims, and whereas this commemorative week celebrates the energy, perseverance, commitment that launched the victims' rights movement, inspired its progress, and continues to advance the cause of justice for crime victims. And whereas crime can leave a lasting impact on any person, regardless of age, national origin, race, creed, religion, gender, sexual orientation, immigration, or economic status. And whereas incorporating communities, existing experts, and trusted sources of support into efforts to fully serve survivors will develop a criminal justice system response that is truly accessible and appropriate for all victims of crime. And whereas with the unwavering support of their communities and victim service providers behind them, survivors will be empowered to face their grief, loss, fear, anger, and hope without fear of judgment, and will feel understood, heard, and respected. And whereas serving victims and rebuilding their trust restores hope to victims and survivors, as well as supports thriving communities. And whereas engaging a broader array of healthcare providers, community leaders, faith organizations, educators, and business can provide new links between victims and services that improve their safety, healing, and access to justice. And whereas honoring the rights of victims, including the rights to be heard and to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect, and working to meet their needs, rebuilds their trust in the criminal justice and social service systems. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that all victims of crime, especially those who are challenging to meet, to reach, or serve, are offered culturally and linguistically accessible and appropriate services in the aftermath of crime. And whereas the Flagler County Advocate Alliance, comprised of crime victim advocates from Bunnell Police Department, Family Life Center, Flagler Beach Police Department, Flagler County Sheriff's Office, and the Office of the State Attorney, 7th Judicial Circuit in Flagler, is hereby dedicated to strengthening victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities and our victim responders, and working for a better future for all victims and survivors. Now, therefore, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through 13th, 2019 as Crime Victims' Rights Week, and reaffirm this county's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year, and to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. Adopted this first day of April 2019, attested Mr. Tom Bexley, clerk and Circuit Court Comptroller, and signed by Donald T. O'Brien, Chairman of the Flagler County Board of Commissioners. Chief Brandt, welcome.
Welcome, Chief.
Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Steve Brand with the Flagler County Sheriff's Office. I would just like to recognize all the men and women of the Flagler County Sheriff's Office who work so hard to ensure that our victims in this community have a voice, and especially our victim advocates who really, really work hard to make sure that all the services in our community are provided to our victims. And it just doesn't stop with the Sheriff's Office. There's many organizations within this community that do the same kind of work, and I think I'd be amiss to not recognize everybody and thank everybody for all the hard work that they do. So.
Hi, good morning. Candace Wilkie, Sexual Assault Services Coordinator with the Family Life Center. We just want to thank you for your support. Mary's here from the Sheriff's Office and Rebecca, Victim Advocates for the county. Since 2016, we have created the Flagler County Advocate Alliance, where we have met monthly to discuss best practices and services provided to victims of crime and tried to do our best to make sure that we provide a coordinated effort to make sure that the services are received and offered as quickly and efficiently as possible. For the Crime Victim Rights Week, Flagler Beach wasn't able to make it here today, but I know that they would want to invite you to their sunrise service, which is April 13th at 7 a.m. at Flagler Pier. It's a wonderful ceremony to celebrate crime victims and their families. So we would love to have your support and be there at that event. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Or? Okay.
Run out of things to say, but there's a bunch of you, so keep smiling, keep your eyes open, and we'll be good. We'll get a few more. That should do it. Thank you.
You know, Mr. Chairman, the public of the people of Florida voted in this last election to greatly increase the state's ability to deal with crime victims.
Yeah, that was one, you were mentioning about one of the
Yeah, one of the
amendments. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Crime Victims' Rights Week proclamation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And last but certainly not least, Commissioner Erickson, you have something on Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Flagler County. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual assault violence is widespread and impacts every person in this community. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment impact our community, and statistics show that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men will be raped at some point in their lives. That 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before age 18. Youths 12 to 17 are 2.5 times as likely to be victims of rape or sexual assault, and on campus, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men are sexually assaulted. And whereas during 2018, Family Life Center at the Certified Rape Crisis Center in Flagler County provided 209 sexual assault-related community education events, 1,593 supportive services, and answered 54 sexual assault crisis hotline calls for survivors of sexual assault and their families living in Flagler County. And whereas the Start by Believing public awareness campaign, a program of End Violence Against Women International, is designed to improve the responses of friends, family members, and community professionals so that they can help sexual assault victims access supportive resources and engage the crime justice system. And whereas Flagler County joins advocates and communities across the county because we are strongest when we raise our voices together to change the culture to prevent sexual violence. Prevention requires addressing the root causes and social norms that allow sexual violence to exist. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and each day of the year is an opportunity to create change for the future. Now, therefore, the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Flagler County, and do hereby encourage all citizens to support the Start by Believing public awareness campaign. Adopted this first day of April 2019, attested Tom Bexley, Clerk and Circuit Court Comptroller, Donald T. O'Brien, Chair, Flagler County Board of Commissioners. God, it's really, I find it just sad having to have 3 of the 5 items that we want to recognize be such sorry acts against people, and we got to knock it out.
Good morning. My name is Trish Giacconi. I'm the CEO of the Family Life Center. And first, let me say thank you very much for acknowledging these very real things that are happening that are horrible in our community. As an advocate for victims of sexual violence, we stand hand in hand with victims in the moment of their crisis and their families, because it's not an isolated thing. We know that the victim is victimized, but then that family also is working through the trauma. And it's life-changing, life-altering in not a positive way. And so we know that together we can educate our community, and together we can work towards preventing sexual violence through education and awareness, and making sure that we do stand together and say behaviors and actions are not going to be tolerated in this community anymore. So thank you so much for identifying April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I have a couple of folks with me that I'd like to introduce. I'd like them to introduce themselves and speak a little bit about the events we have coming up.
My name's Rebecca Coffey. I am an advocate at Family Life Center.
Hi, good morning again. Candace Wilkie, Sexual Assault Services Coordinator with the Family Life Center. So we have a couple events during the month of April that we would like you to participate in and know about. First one is our Walk a Mile in Our Shoes. Charlie is a pro at it. It is going to be held in Flagler Beach at Veterans Park on April 12th. Registration starts at 8:30. And it is a men's march where we ask men to walk a mile in red stilettos. So please grab your agencies and groups and join us. Registration information is on our website, familylifecenterflagler.org. So we would love to have groups compete and promote their businesses as they can wear their own company t-shirts at the walk. It's an event to raise awareness. As Trish said, it's a pretty, sexual assault is still today a topic that nobody likes to talk about. And it's important that we make that become like breast cancer, something that is common and okay for people to talk about, because it's not something that's taboo. It's something that happens more often than we care to admit. And the more we talk about it, the more we raise awareness for it.
Candace, did you say April the 12th? Maybe
Is it
Friday?
Yes, Saturday.
It's Saturday the 13th,
Saturday.
correct?
The sunrise service is Sunday, so I probably got the dates mixed up.
That's okay.
So, yeah,
And
the sunrise service is Sunday, our Walk a Mile Saturday,
And it starts at
8:30.
8:30.
Yes.
Okay.
The second thing we have going on is our Paint the Town Teal. It's our third annual Paint the Town Teal contest, where we're asking our community small businesses to paint their storefront windows teal, either putting hashtag SAAM or harassment-free zone or some type of artistic design on their storefront window in the color teal. So they could do the ribbons, because teal is the color for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, or a butterfly, which is our logo, just to raise awareness. And for that, we will come and take a picture of the business. We'll post it on our social media throughout the year, and everyone will get a certificate of participation for that. And the last thing, April 24th is Denim Days. So this is something that we ask businesses to allow their staff to wear blue jeans to work that day. And if you do that and participate, please take a picture, send it to me, and we will post it on our social media. But the reason for that is to raise awareness to prevent victim blaming, because it is not what a person wears which causes them to be sexually assaulted. So we all wear blue jeans, and it's okay to wear blue jeans. It's not an invitation to be touched inappropriately or to be spoken to inappropriately. So those are some events that we have going on in April, and we would love for y'all to participate, please, and join us in raising awareness. Thank you so much for your support, not only of the Family Life Center. We have a long partnership with you all, and we truly do appreciate everything that you do and the time that you dedicate to our center, survivors of not only sexual assault but domestic violence as well. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We
Mr. Chairman,
appreciate
what
it.
was the date for the window painting? I didn't get that down.
That's the whole month of April.
For the businesses?
Yes. So we just asked that it stay up for the whole month of April. Pens are at Michael's for like $5, so it's not too much of an expense for the business, and it just helps to raise awareness. How cool would it be to have the community be teal in April like they are pink in October?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure Mr. Mullins will be there too with his red shoes on like he did last
That would
year.
be
Yeah.
awesome.
Can we get a photo with you, Trish? Thank you.
As a drill, so smile, and here we go. Just a couple more, and we should be good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, recommend approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the proclamation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries unanimous. Okay, thank you, everybody, for your attention and participation in the proclamation section. So we'll move on to presentations. And looks like first up we have a project update for the design of the Graham Swamp Multi-Use Trail and Pedestrian Bridge, which will run from Lehigh Trail. And that's going to be by our county engineer, Faith Al-Khatib. Morning, Ms. Faith.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Faith Al-Khatib, the County Engineer and Public Works Director. I do have with me Amy Kennedy. She's the Project Manager for this project. Also, I do have our consultant KCA team. We are here to update you on the Graham Swamp Trail and Pedestrian Bridge over State Road 100 project. We included this project in 2013, part of our priority list, and it has been approved by you then. Then we added to FDOT 5-year work program, and at that time we received $1.5 million for the design phase. And also, and that funding for the design phase, it's funded for this fiscal year. And also there was allocated some funding for construction and construction engineering inspection for fiscal year 2020-21, and that means it's going to be available next year, July next year. This project, the Graham Swamp Trail, will extend from the existing Lehigh Trail to State Road 100. It's going to be approximately 1.6 miles to get to State Road 100. Then it will be connected to a pedestrian bridge, and that will be cross State Road 100. Then it will continue with a sidewalk along the side of the south side of State Road 100 to connect with the existing sidewalk along Old Kings Road. And also the future phase for this project to connect to our existing Bulow Preserve property going south. It's not included part of this project, but hopefully when the funding is available, we can do that then. In July 2018, the board, you approved the lab agreement with FDOT to move on to the design phase, the $1.5 million. And at that time, you did request us to come back to update you for the beginning of the design phase for the project. July 16, 2018, you approved us to go and negotiate a consulting team for the design phase, and we did issue the notice to proceed to the team December 2018. And they are here to update you on the project. I can turn it over to Simon from KCA to give you more detailed information about it.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I want to just elaborate a little bit more on what Faith had said. I thought we had a slide in here that showed the site plan. Anyway, Faith had mentioned there that the trail is going to start at the Lehigh Trail, and it's going to go southward, and it's going to include a multi-use, grade-separated bridge over State Road 100. That is going to then loop around and return to State Road 100. We're going to construct a sidewalk similar to what is all currently on the north side that will connect over to Old Kings Highway there, so you have connectivity with all this new trail components here. The bridge is going to be a very prominent element of the project there. It's going to be seen both by the trail users and all the traffic that goes back and forth along the State Road 100 corridor to Flagler Beach. With that in mind, our design team was tasked with developing 3 architectural concepts for the bridge that were reviewed by your county engineering staff. And we're here today. We're going to give you a little synopsis of those 3 concepts and what the recommended concept was by your county engineering staff. I'm here with Nathan Butler, He's from HKS Architects. They were responsible for working with us for the development of those architectural concepts, and he's going to present those. And I'm flipping through slides. Nathan, you wanna go over the concepts?
All right, thank you, Simon. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning. It's good to be here. I'm Nathan Butler with HKS Architects. I'm from Orlando, Florida, and it's a pleasure to be part of the team, and pleasure to be working with the county staff on this project. And I have to say, it's nice to be here. I get a front row seat, literally, of what's happening here in the county, particularly the investments that you're making in the quality of life here. And I certainly appreciate the comments that you made, Commissioner Erickson, about the unfortunate, the sad things we have to recognize during this month. But it was very nice to kick things off today by recognizing the progress the county's made in terms of the quality of life here and the health of the community. And certainly, I think this is a significant investment in that regard. I think civic amenities such as this pedestrian bridge go a long way to progressing and advancing the livability of the county and connecting people and places. So in the early stage of the design, which we're still in, but at the outset of this, we, of course, came out and visited the site to really look at the context of where this bridge is located, to get a better understanding of the trail and the nature of this specific place. And outside of its practical function as a crossing over primary roadway, State Road 100, there's real opportunities through this project to really showcase the natural beauty that exists here in this locale and within the county. And so, we were struck by some of the things we observed just as we walked the pathways out there where this bridge will be located. Not sure if we've frozen the slide deck here.
Wait a minute, we're trying to bring up the other.
Are you? Oh, okay. Oh, are you pulling up the site plan? Well, I'll keep going. I'll buy you some time. And so, in looking at the context, we not only looked at the proximity, to this site where the bridge crossing will occur, but what it could mean as a gateway element, if you will, leading out toward Flagler Beach. And so specifically, we of course visited the terminus out there at Flagler Beach and looked at some of the kind of architectural elements out there that signify and are, make the place relevant. So looking at some of those iconic structures that are out there, the A-frame structure, the pier, and really, visiting those. Here we go. Just perfect timing. So, those really struck us, and Simon and I were kind of joking about it because we crawling around up under the pier and looking at the structures. To us, it's fascinating, right, as architects. But how do we start to translate that into something that relates to the context and relates to the community and presents a unique identity and connects both the place, the people, to the natural surroundings, both a little bit inland where this crossing will occur, but starting to speak about what's beyond that at the coastline and the important kind of place that has within this community. So these are a few images of those things of the pier. One thing that struck us too, as we look at the A-frame structure that everyone's, I think, familiar with at the pier, was also this idea of this kind of rational A-frame structure that some of you may have seen something like this is on the lower left side of this slide. It's a fish drying structure that you'll see in coastal communities where fish that are caught are brought in and hung on these racks to dry for sustenance for the people. And so kind of relating these into design concepts, we developed 3 concepts and looked at these with of course, the team and have been working closely with county staff to vet these further. So the first concept that you see here is what we call the A-frame. So we took those ideas that I just described from our interpretation of the nature of the place and start to apply a structure to it that could evoke those kinds of images. And so this is a very simple kind of an A-frame structure that would cover the bridge crossing itself. and can be applied to a very simple FDOT structural system that's very cost-effective and very efficient in terms of this method of construction. It's typically used for roadway crossings such as this, but starting to look at putting a skin on it that relates to your context, and then applying materials to that are low maintenance, that are easy to maintain. So this is an overlay of this A-frame sort of concept laid onto a photograph of the context where this crossing will occur. So you can see how it starts to kind of blend in and emerge from the woods, from the tree line at each side of the road, and not only make a statement, but it's still something that's very light. So you can still see a lot of movement of people traversing back and forth across this. And you'll see a hint on here, too, of a thought we had that this would be an easy structure to apply a photovoltaic array to as well, if there were desires to have lighting as an aspect of this, that it could be something that could be self-sufficient. And so this is a cross-section through that. You'll see the deck of that is a simple precast form that's a very commonly used FDOT shape for roadway crossings, and then the skin that we've applied to that in this A-frame language. The second option that we looked at, we call this one the covered bridge, and we looked at some of the more traditional structures that are in this area, in this part of Florida, particularly the old train station. It started to remind us a little bit of that old traditional covered bridge and the delicate kind of lattice work structure that can sometimes be found in those forms. And so we translated that into a similar skin treatment for this bridge that would have a very traditional form, but can have a very interesting effect as it crosses the roadway there too, and the different sort of play of light and shadow that this could have as one moves through the bridge. And so this is a section view of that, again, using very low maintenance materials for this skin, so that it'll be something that doesn't become a maintenance expense for the long term for the county. And the third option that we looked at, we called this one In Motion. We started to kind of think about ideas of motion, of moving people, both the roadway below and then, of course, across on the pedestrian crossing above. And so we started to kind of translate this idea of the skin of this bridge as being made of something that's more dynamic, more active. And so this is a concept that looks at placing the metal panels and the metal structure of this in a little more of a random way, but something that starts to evoke almost a netting effect, if you will, sort of translucent and with more opacity that allows some light to pass through, but becomes much more of a solid element when taken as a whole. So again, the cross-section of that, each of these schemes utilizes that same FDOT precast structure for the deck, so very cost-efficient, and constructability is very easily accomplished for this. And in looking at these three options with staff, we have come forward with a recommendation that we pursue the first option that I showed you, this A-frame. I think the strength of this one, we all felt, was that it relates very well to some of the contextual elements within Flagler County, as well as its relation to both the natural setting, both inland and toward the coastline as well. So we felt this was a very appropriate language for this element. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Simon, who he'll describe a little bit more in detail for you some of the thought that's gone into the structure itself.
You might be wondering about the various options that we had on the architectural concepts there. These enclosures, what that is required for is to keep objects from being able to be thrown on the roadway. It's an FDOT requirement that be enclosed. So that's being a very prominent element. That's where the focus of our architectural concepts.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Could they throw something through the mesh to the street below, can of beer or something or whatever?
It will be done of a size that meets the requirements by FDOT that an object can't of a certain size pass through those openings, but still allow visibility for security and, things of that nature. As this is a project that is crossing over a FDOT roadway, we've also been involved in the coordination process with FDOT. To go over the roadway, you can span it in a matter of ways where your piers are going to be at. We presented to them two options, one with a pier in the median and one with a longer span with piers to the outside. They were agreeable that if we do the proper things to meet FDOT criteria with offsets from the roadway, that they'll allow us to build a median pier. That has been coordinated with them, and we have gotten buy-off from them, so that's where we stand. So with that being said, we can entertain any questions you may have based upon what we presented here.
Commissioners?
Yeah, the panels and the lighting, is that part of this, or is that a future add-on? It looked like it was a future add-on.
That's intended, we're going to look at where we are. We've got budget constraints on, the funding that you're going to have available there. And photovoltaics can be kind of expensive there. What this is a presentation of is possibly a future element. Right. If we could find, that it fits within funding, we may look at that further. But, there's probably a desire to get architectural and safety lighting on here. And rather than have it, connected to a meter that you get a bill for each month, right. This may be a way of being green and saving money.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like it. Thanks.
Commissioner?
I'm going to get a little picky here since I'm a biker myself. If I'm at the end of the trail, I'm on Colbert, correct? Is that what we're talking about?
It's going to be east of Colbert, west of Colbert. It's going to be closer to Old Kings Road.
Oh, okay.
So, can you finish your question?
Okay, no, I thought you were going to send people down that direction, south on Colbert, and then west on 100.
It will be connected, yes.
Okay.
Because there is an existing sidewalk right now on
okay.
that side.
Are we
so
going to widen those sidewalks with traffic perhaps now going a little bit more both directions?
It's not included part of this project at this time, but maybe it can be in the future added.
Okay, well, let me ask the next question then. How wide is the trail going to be growing across the road? Because now you got traffic coming against you, going both directions.
For the trail itself?
Well, no, not, well,
how wide is the bridge?
The trail across the bridge, is that going to be wider than the normal trail? Because now you've got traffic going north and south.
14 feet. So,
okay, but is
No.
And that's consistent with criteria for a multi-use trail with traffic both directions. 12's the minimum.
Because I mean, we've got three-wheel bikers, et cetera. We've got some people in wheelchairs. We've got babies in carriages and stuff like that.
The existing sidewalk on State Road 100 is almost 7 feet wide. On the north side of State Road 100, on the south side of State Road 100, we are including 5 feet wide sidewalk to connect to the existing 5 feet sidewalk on Old Kings Road. So I do understand what you're trying to do because we're creating a multi-use trail and pedestrian bridge, but there is no need right now to widen it to 12 feet wide. So maybe in the future it will be another phase. But to connect to the pedestrian bridge going north to tie it in with Lehigh Trail is going to be approximately 12 feet wide.
That paperclip turn to get off of it concerns me also. That's, you got people coming down an incline going a little bit faster. You got people just now starting up going slower. That looks to me like a...
It's going to be meeting ADA requirements?
It's going to all meet ADA requirements. The grades on the approach are going to be no greater than 5%. That's within criteria for not having to have intermediate landings. You can go up to 8.3%, but you have to have intermediate landings. So we like the approach, and with the construction methods that we're using, it facilitates the 5% grade better. And we do, it is county-owned property. We do plan on getting it level for, a couple of 100 feet, so that you got a nice approach area that's level. So somebody speeding down, they got time to recover themselves before they got to make that loop around.
You would think so, but,
But both approaches are straight ramp approach. I've been on some of these bridges where it's a serpentine approach because there's not a lot of space for the approach. These are both going to be straight ramped.
That was the intent at this time, because we're using these, what they call FUB beams, and they're going to come in lengths of 115 feet. We could, put bends in it if that was desired. Usually that's not desired for a trail. Usually
Well, no, what I was thinking of, there's a bike path that goes over I-4 in the Sanford area, and the ramp is basically, you have to make two turns to get up on the ramp. It's just because there's not a lot of land for the approach.
very familiar with it. I was the engineer of record for that bridge.
So, but this is different because we'd have a straight ramp approach, correct?
We do have enough right-of-way there. We own the property
That's what I thought,
south of this pedestrian bridge, and the state, they own the property north of this bridge. So we don't have any limited right-of-way.
And that condition is not actually very desirable for bike users using that grade, but you were correct. They were limited. They had very limited, and that bridge was designed to fit right within the small parcel that they had, and the reason it had a loop on itself. But
yes, sir.
It's not really a desirable condition.
Yeah. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, two questions. When we briefed this the first time, we talked about running a trail through the woods south from the Lehigh Trail, so you wouldn't have to come all the way around. Is that still in the plan?
It is still in the plan, but it's not part of this project phase. It's going to be another phase to the project. It depends on the funding. We are limited to FDOT funding at this time, but in the future, yes.
And the second question is wood. This is a tough climate for wood, and I point to a bridge that I use all the time at the River Bend Golf Course in Ormond Beach, and the wood is drastically deteriorating there, and it's very hard to replace. So on this structure, everything above the base is wood, the supports?
It's all going to be aluminum.
Aluminum, okay, because you gave it a wood look. So where is the wood in this?
Nowhere.
Okay, I thought you said it was kind of a wood look. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it can be a disaster for maintenance if it's wood.
Dam was supposed to be low maintenance.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're trying to even avoid coated steel there, because coatings on steel over time do deteriorate.
Peel off.
So anodized aluminum, we're thinking is going to be a
Particularly for a
good
coastal
bet.
setting.
Good.
Go ahead.
On the south side, if somebody wants to start on the south side as opposed to going and go north, is there going to be some sort of parking there?
Not included at this time.
Well,
In the future, our goal to build first a pedestrian bridge connected with Lehigh Trail, and maybe in the future, when we develop our south parcel, which owned by us, by Flagler County,
Right,
we
aware of it,
might
yeah,
consider trailhead there. Yes, I agree with you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, our last presentation for today is a check presentation to the Flagler County Free Clinic and the Family Life Center on behalf of the Flagler Women's Club and Flagler County Fire Rescue, and I welcome Chief Petito. Morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Don Petito, Flagler County Fire Rescue. And I have with me the members of the Flagler Women's Club. We did have the Family Life Center and Free Clinic, but I think Trish had to go. But anyway, the Women's Club every year has a chili cook-off for first responders. And for 2 years in a row, I am the winner. So this is where the applause comes in.
We read that. We read that.
Thank you. This year, what they did is they gave me winnings, and they said that I get to pick to choose a foundation that I could give this to. And what we did is we split it, and we give half to the Family Life Center and half to the Free Clinic, $542 to each one of them.
All right.
So,
Thank you, Chief.
and I'm going to be real quick and say that's all for me. So I'd like to introduce the Flagler Women's Club and let them say a few words, and then we'll give the checks.
Hi, I'm Mary Lauk with the Flagler Women's Club. Barb and I are second vice presidents in charge of fundraising. Jane Mealy is our treasurer, and we appreciate you having us here today. A little bit background about the Flagler Women's Club is it was formed by 13 women in 1946. It's a nonprofit 501c3. We're a volunteer organization with over 100 members from throughout Flagler County, and we allow some Ormond Beach people in. We focus on community and civic events. Through our various fundraisers, we're able to provide scholarships to local graduates and donations to local charities. In addition to the generosity that Chief and Chet showed to these two charities, they're part of our normal charity group as well. The object of the Chili Challenge is to provide an afternoon of fun, getting to know our first responders and celebrating them. They're the men and women who show up when our life turns us upside down and helps us to try to right ourselves. So it's an opportunity to try to get to know them, get out and celebrate them, and just have fun. And that's what the goal was, and I think we achieved that, right? We have had 15 people making chili. From Flagler Beach, it was Chief Pace, Lieutenant Forte, firefighters Eves, Prince, and husband and wife challengers Mike and Melissa Goki. From Flagler County, we had Lieutenant, I can never say it right, Castaneda, and close enough. Firefighters Patton and the Kepler brothers in kilts and everything. We had Flagler Beach Police Captain Blachant and officers Vicente and Ramirez, New York firefighter retirees of Central Florida, and Angelo Demanio, who's the retired police chief of Crescent Beach. The Women's Club does all the background work in organizing the events, getting the supplies. The men and women show up with their chili, they interact with the community, and it was a lot of fun. We congratulate the Family Life Center and the Free Clinic for being picked by our winners. We also want to just take a moment to tell you about some of our upcoming events, especially Mr. Sullivan, seeing you golf. We have our golf tournament coming up on April 13th. The net proceeds of that event goes to 13 local charities. We have a pancake breakfast on May 11th. The net proceeds from that event goes to the Flagler Beach Firemen's Association for active shooter gear. And then we have a Dancing for the Oldies Just for Fun on June 22nd. So thank you for having us here today. And again, we want to congratulate Chief Petito and Chet, as well as the the Family Life Center and the Free Clinic.
Hello, I'm Terry Belletto, and I'm the Executive Director of the Flagler County Free Clinic, and I just want to say thank you, first of all, to Flagler County for the support they give the Free Clinic. Certainly the Flagler Women's Club has supported us for a very long time. And thank you to Chief Petito. I told him this morning when he came in, he was kind of apologizing, well, it's $542, and I said, you know what, that pays our electric bill this month. So we really appreciate it, and I do want to add that the Free Clinic has really expanded over the last few years, and we're going to take a little bit of credit for improving our health here in Flagler County as well, because we are the only free clinic that provides services absolutely free to uninsured and low-income individuals. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Triple dipping today.
Good morning. I know, right? I'm going to be brief. We are completely honored by this check presentation, and we could not do the work that we do without the support of our community and agencies like y'all. So we are so appreciative of this, and please, $542 we can do a lot with. It provides essential services to survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault that we would not otherwise be able to provide without this support. So we want to definitely thank the Women's Club and the Chief for choosing us as one of the recipients for this award. Thank you so very much for the work that you do as well. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Chief, can we get a photo of you presenting the check up here, maybe?
Sure.
We'll get behind you. Was there someone else that wanted to speak? I apologize. Please, did you want to speak, Commissioner? You want to speak? No. I apologize.
Hardly taking any pictures today, so it's good that we have an opportunity to do this. Everybody ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Couple. Everybody smile, eyes open. That should be good. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. It's all good stuff.
It's good to see you.
All right.
It's good to see you again.
All right, Jane. Okay.
Okay, next up on our agenda is the community outreach portion of our agenda. And again, this is a 30-minute time period which is allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. And community outreach portion is now open.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jane Gentile, Youth Plantation Bay. Gentlemen, I just gave the clerk, we had another 20 petitions signed asking both the county, you and FDEP to stop all development, construction in any of the communities that are serviced by Plantation Bay Utilities. Mr. Chair, I'd like to give you a copy. I filed this with the clerk, but I appreciate if you could read this. I'm listening to everything going on in the county, especially the trail. And Charlie, I think the world of you, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the bikers. And I think it's wonderful and it's healthy. What about us in Plantation Bay? And the people across the street from Plantation Bay, that's in Mr. Sullivan's district. There was a crisis last week, and with all due respect, I think Mr. Cameron has stepped into a pile of mud by coming here. But who from FDEP said that the 6,000-gallon spill had no impact on the community? When did anybody come down from FDEP? Mr. Chair, I would like for you to address Mr. Cameron or whoever at FDEP who came down and said that none of this toxic, untreated wastewater went into our groundwater. I'd like an answer to that because it was in the newspapers that according to FDEP, a spokesman said it was okay. Who was the spokesman? And how did he inspect the property? This is a disgrace. This is an absolute disgrace. And we asked you for a moratorium on everything. Here there is a consent order outstanding for over 6 years, and there's an accident that happens that it's okay. Joe Mullins has seen this thousands of times. Thousands of times? He's only 48 years old. How many construction sites? How much garbage are we going to get from the county while we listen to all the other things that you give people? You give this guy a half hour to talk about a bridge, but you're going to shut me up after 3 minutes when we have 5,000 people who are affected by this disgraceful water, and you don't even address the moratorium. signed by 151 people, even though some live in Volusia. I want this issue addressed, and so do the other people in Plantation Bay. And I want an answer. Who said our water is safe right now? Thank you.
Okay.
I want an answer.
Yep, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Morning, Commissioners. Dennis McDonald. Mr. Chair, I come here today to address just one item, okay, specifically, and that is the revoking of the certificate of occupancy on the sheriff's headquarters. I wanted to thank you for getting us the Terracon report, and that was released just a little over a month ago, and I'm sure you gentlemen have all read that report. What I want to call to your attention is item number 3, and observations and findings. And very simply, not to read the whole thing, it says here, the design also indicates that the existing wood blocking and the bad insulation were salvaged to the top of the exterior walls. So, Mr. Chairman, these pictures have been around and in the public view for 4 years, I'd say. This is exactly what they're talking about. They have confirmed, this report confirms the fact that this condition exists right now as I'm standing here talking to you. And so the reason I'm here is that you are the authoritative agency for the Florida Building Code, okay, in Flagler County. You, commissioners, are the last guys. You have the last word on this, and you know that from some of the things that's been going on at Bing's Landing and such that you've been involved with. So what I'm here to ask you is to revoke that certificate of occupancy that was given on October 2nd of 2015 because it fails the building code. But more important of all that, and by the way, that's your findings, not somebody else's indirectly or whatever. You gave us the report. Your report says it fails. 2813.141 is the code section that it fails. There's other things in the report, too, that indicate failures. But what I wanted to talk to you about is the fact is that this needs to be taken care of, and we need to stop the outpouring of tax dollars. You're coming up on tax season soon for a new budget. Right now, we spent $300,000 to $400,000 on lawyers on this, okay? But yet we haven't taken care of the deputies and the staff that have been poisoned by this building. And so this is a first step. You've actually got something that's tangible that you can actually act on. Up until now, you haven't. You haven't had any findings from the CDC. Everybody wants to back off. I'm asking you to act, and this is what you're supposed to do, is step up and address this situation. We're going to spend another $500,000, okay, before the end of this summer on more lawyers' fees, and we're going to have $1 million into it. We're going to see this again very soon. It's going to turn around and hit us with more fees as far as our insurance premiums are concerned. I ask you today to act on this. Okay, it's all within your purview, and I need an answer because you've had a letter from Mr. Bickler saying what's going to happen, unfortunately, if you don't act on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Mike Cocciola. There are 2 issues I'd like to speak on this morning. The first is homeless. It was brought up earlier about the cleanup of the woods around the library. Good, very commendable. That needed to be done, but that's just a small item, a small start in the problem of dealing with the homeless in Flagler County. We are one of the biggest, one of the best and most beautiful counties in Florida, if not the country. But yet we have this blot on our record. Homeless, even though you clean the woods, they are still homeless. And we've got to deal with it. I would like to see a plan from the county to start the process of dealing with it. It's going to take commitment, it's going to take money, and it's going to take perseverance. None of this is going to happen fast, but we ought to get started in Flagler County. Second issue is criminal justice reform. We talked about the crime or the justice for victims. Last year, President Trump signed the First Step Act, which was an attempt to start dealing with our burgeoning criminal prison population within our criminal justice system. We incarcerate more people at a greater rate than any country in the world, us in America. We incarcerate 754 people, something like that, per 100,000, and we are about a 1/3 higher rate than even Russia. So we are a country that incarcerates people. Florida is a state that incarcerates people. We are one of the highest rates of incarceration of any state in the country. Right now being debated at the legislature in Florida is Florida's version of the First Step Act. So I would like to see the county recognize the fact that we need to deal with criminal justice reform, and the county needs to speak up about that. We should no longer measure success against crime by the number of people we incarcerate. We ought to recognize that there are other measures of success, one of which is keeping people out of prison, keeping people from going back to prison, and that's a community effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cocciola. Next speaker, please. All right, seeing no one else approach the podium, I will close the community outreach portion of our agenda. Commissioners, any comments or reactions to, I was going to defer to Mr. Cameron, but you guys?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, I hope you will
Yeah,
refer
yeah.
this to.
So, Mr. Cameron, with respect to maybe just providing some more detail for the public regarding the spill that we had, or the accident we had at the Plantation Bay facility.
Yes, sir. That was done by a contractor, and we had clearly marked the area, but somehow or another he didn't notice that, and he broke a force main, and it put approximately 6,000 gallons of sewage into the ditch that he was working in. It was contained within that area. He was required to notify DEP. We notified DEP. He was required to have a septic company come in, pump out the majority of it, and the ground was treated with lime in accordance with protocols that have been given us. County bore no expense. There was no interruption of our service.
Okay. And again, being in the insurance business for a long time, I can tell you it's an everyday occurrence with contractors and septic systems and things like that. It's unfortunate that it happened on our property, but it's not something that was a black swan event, if you will.
Yes, sir. We do encounter breaks in our water distribution system as well as wastewater on a fairly routine basis, and we have protocols for dealing with it. Also,
Contractor was properly insured, correct?
That's correct. We also, we don't, but the other utilities that provide electricity and phone service and cable TV and all of those things also experience routine breaks. That's why there's a big push for call before you dig in our county. So hopefully that sort of thing is minimized by people calling before they dig.
Yes, sir. With respect to the CO for the Sheriff's Operation Building,
Sir, the building, it comes under my authority, and I'm certainly not going to let it be occupied unless this board should instruct me differently. The legal aspects of that, I would defer to the county attorney.
Well, as Mr. Cameron has alluded to, access to the building is controlled, very strictly controlled. It's alarmed. There's monitoring of it. So any risks to the general public are simply non-existent. The building is only used for I think, weapons and evidence. The building official advised me that he had a substantial conversation with Mr. McDonald about his assertion, and that he explained why he cannot revoke the certificate of occupancy. The board is not permitted. The Board of County Commissioners does not have the legal authority to revoke a certificate of occupancy. Under the state law, the Florida Building Code, the certified county building official is the one that has that power. I went ahead and researched Florida law. I mean, I'm familiar with the building code precepts, but I wanted to know what the courts have done with that. And in Florida, at least in Florida law, the courts have said that there is no remedy compelling a building official to revoke a certificate of occupancy. It is something within the discretion of the building official, and the building official here has determined that there is no grounds or basis to revoke that CO.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Commissioners? With respect to dealing with the overall issue of homelessness in our community, I know, Mr. Cameron, that's something that you worked very long and hard on in St. Johns County and bring a wealth of experience. I know there's various groups that are working on the problem, but as far as an overall coordination of that, any comments on that?
Yes, sir. That is a very large problem, and we have to come up with an alternative to sleeping in the woods. That is going to be the most expedient approach to that is going to be to find a community partner, be they within Flagler County or elsewhere. And the criteria for that is that if we offer them a situation that is better than living in the woods as far as their health and safety is concerned, then that is a legitimate alternative. We would seek a place that provided a bed. It would provide a heating and air conditioning. It would provide basic sanitation and would provide meals. Once we find a partnership that can supply those things, then we can begin to vigorously address the homeless issue in Flagler County. That is an issue that takes some time to do. In the meantime, we are trying to work with the homeless people that we encounter to place in facilities that do exist in other places. And our social services outreach is doing all they can with regard to that. But the long-term solution is going to be to find a community partner, and we are addressing that. I will be able to give it more attention as soon as we clear the decks of some of these more pressing issues that we have.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I lived in Naples, Florida for about a 7-year period of time, and one thing they did, and of course Collier County is probably one of the ritziest funded counties. They built a Goodwill store, and on the first floor it was a Goodwill business, and on the second floor was where all the homeless people had a bed. They then also were employees of that, and for their room and board upstairs, they had to work a certain number of hours in the Goodwill store. Now, obviously, we've got Goodwill stores here and stuff like that, and they'd be a challenge to that, but that was one of the solutions that Naples put into effect, and still, to the best of my knowledge, is running on a day-to-day basis and solving part of the problem in Naples.
Mr. Chairman, the thrift store model is one of the more successful models throughout the country. it not only provides a revenue stream to help address the issue, it does provide employment and increases the sense of self-worth that you're helping to take care of yourself. And certainly if we could find a community partner that wanted to do that, then we would enthusiastically work with them.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, something that's often overlooked is the success stories that our Janet Nichols and our county staff have had. And those people that are homeless that actually want help, we're able to help. We're able to get them into housing. We're able to get them jobs. We're able to get them transportation. But the key thing is they've got to want to and accept the help. And it's often overlooked how much Janet Nichols does with those people and how much she helps.
Yes, sir. She does a fantastic job. She was able to place a number of the people that were at the library site. And you are quite correct. She can help those and does help those that want the help. Unfortunately, the way the case law has evolved on homelessness, that even the ones that don't want the help and would rather stay in the woods, you cannot address them on public property unless you can provide an alternative. Once you have provided the alternative, then it's up to them to either accept it or not accept it, but sleeping on public property is no longer an option.
Okay. Thank you. And the last,
I had
I'm sorry, Commissioner. go
another
ahead.
couple comments there. I guess we had a meeting, et cetera, where certain comments were made that the churches didn't have any business in helping the homeless. I thought that was a bad choice of words for that being uttered. I mean, there's churches around here. I work at the Sheltering Tree. In the wintertime, they provide a home for upwards of 30 people. 7 years ago, when I first started there, it was just men that showed up to take advantage of it. Then all of a sudden, out of 30 individual spots, one was a woman. Then a couple years after that, it was husband and wife. And now it's husband, wife, and child that are showing up at some of these places. So, I mean, some of the churches, there's some over in Flagler Beach that do a service. The church at the Rocks allows showers, and I read an article where it said that they were told they couldn't even do that for the homeless. I find that sad, if that's as tight as their rules are. But I think we've got Carrie Bard working long on this. She's been doing it for a long time. I think we're scratching the surface. I think we're moving forward, and it's all an effort. One of the simple things that I was criticized was I went into a local laundromat, and they offered up a certain number of cards that if a homeless person wanted to have their laundry done, they could bring it in there and do it for free. And Janet uses that, I think, on a regular basis to hand out these cards for those folks. So I think there's a lot of busy work being done, and yet we aren't seeing any results. We're still a warm climate. I guess if I was homeless, I'd be headed south myself instead of Bismarck, North Dakota, or Connecticut, or anything north where white stuff covered the ground. But I think we're making some progress, but it's hard to measure.
Thank you, Commissioner. And the last thing that I just wanted to comment on for Mr. Cochiola is I would encourage you to bring your comments to the Public Safety Coordinating Council. I think that's a good group to hear what you have to say. Criminal justice reform is a multivariate, kind of complicated situation with a lot of different opinions, but there's a lot, a broad representation of all the different law enforcement and legal groups that are part of that council. So I would encourage you to go talk to them as well. So thank you, sir.
I could just offer up that next meeting will be Wednesday, the 17th of April, and that would be at the Emergency Services Operation, 8:45 in the morning.
Okay. Moving forward, where'd it go? We're going to move to our consent agenda, and I'll just go from left to right here. Commissioner Erickson, anything to remove from the consent agenda?
I don't have anything at the moment.
Commissioner Hanson?
Nothing, sir.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Nothing.
And the chair does not have anything.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, none. The motion carries unanimous. We'll move to general business, and we have item 8A. And Gloria is
Lori.
going to come talk to us.
Hi, Commissioners. Lori Bailey Brown, Financial Services Director. Item 8A is a resolution authorizing the loan from the Commercial Paper Program of $1 million for our ERP software and emergency services equipment. I'm here to answer any questions you might have about this loan. It's appropriated in the budget.
This is a result of the, Mr. Chairman, this is a result of that previous where we had to split it out from the.
Well, technically, in our budget, we had planned on borrowing for ERP and.
But this has come up to us before.
Yes,
in
it
that
came
other
up before,
form.
including a
Right.
property,
Right.
which is excluded now, of course.
Okay, so that's what this is.
That's what this is, yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 8A.
Second? Do somebody-
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by the public on this issue, this item 8A? Hearing none, bring it back to the board for further comment. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, David, I forgot the chair left and you were.
On for a second. Okay, we'll go on to item 8B in general business. And this is consideration of a resolution to approve area of operation authority within the Flagler County to the Volusia County Housing Finance Authority to issue multifamily mortgage revenue bonds in connection with the proposed development, proposed developments, which is Central Landings at Town Center, to be constructed within the city of Palm Coast.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners. I'm Ralston Ryudika, Ship Administrator. And so this item, we actually have representation from the developer on the proposed development. We have Mark Gauthier and Jay Brock here to have a brief presentation and also answer any of your questions. The last time we had this type of request was in 2013. It was for Brookhaven Development, and that's a multifamily affordable housing development in the city of Palm Coast.
Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Mark Gauthier. I'm with Atlantic Housing Partners out of Winter Park, and I have with me Jay Brock, who is the
the general partner of the owner of the proposed developments. I'm with Southern Affordable Services. We're based in the Orlando area, also out of Winter Park.
So my presentation is very, very limited, as we're not in front of you guys for any sort of approvals, any site plan approvals. I just have a few slides to show you the location and generally what we're proposing. And then we're here, I can try to answer any development-related questions, and Jay can try to answer any finance-related questions. Okay, this location, what you're looking at basically is the Palm Coast Town Center area. The project location is shown in red. For those of you guys who are familiar with this part of the county, we're just on the east side of the Epic Theaters.
So that's the land that's already been cleared, et cetera?
Yes,
by
it
the
is.
city, yes, sir, okay.
It is. This is the current master site plan. Of course, it is subject to change as we go through our approval process. On the upper end, sort of the upper right of the site, is a larger building, and this will be an age-restricted building in accordance with the Housing for Older Persons Act, a total of 83 units. The balance of the site will be not age-restricted for families or anybody else who qualifies. What you're seeing now is a total of 277 units. It's a combination of 2-, 3-, and 4-story buildings.
So that's going to be on the south side of that, of the road that the theater's on, or also, or just north?
It's both sides of it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it's Central Boulevard that goes through the middle.
Yes, right, sir.
And we have some development proposed on both sides.
Okay.
This is one of the 3-story buildings that's facing Central Boulevard. It is 3 stories, non-elevator, and it's not one of the age-restricted buildings.
Just before you go on, just one question, and that is, there's also construction going on to the west side of the theaters. That's not your...
That is not related to us.
But that is another development of housing there.
Yeah, I understand that there's a small affordable housing development that either has broken ground or is about to on Bulldog, right, like near closer to the high school. Another one of the buildings facing Central. This one's a little bit bigger, but still 3 stories, no elevators. This is the building that I was showing you on the upper right of the site. It's 4 stories. This is the age-restricted buildings. So as a 4-story building, and as a senior building, it is elevated. As you can see on the ground floor, there are also integral garages, so some of the residents can have some garages that enter directly into the building. We have a few 2-story scattered buildings amongst the site. These are our carriage buildings. They provide some garage opportunities for residents on the site, and then 2 apartments above. The garages aren't tied to the apartments. They can be used leased by anybody in the community. And that's what I have. So I'm happy to answer any development-related questions.
Mr. Chairman, what's the breakdown of size of these apartments, like 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
You have the next breakdown?
Is that something you have? Just
Yes,
an idea, just an
Sure,
idea.
we have it.
On the 1-bedroom units are 118. Bedroom 2-bath units, it is 8. Bath,
I'm sorry, we can't hear him on the broadcast. Can he step closer to the microphone?
I'm sorry. The 1-bedroom, 1-bath units, there are 118. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, there will be 58. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 57. And 4-bedroom, 3-bath, up to 44 units.
Thank you.
Were you looking for square footage or?
No, just number of
the
bedrooms. I
number
want
of
to see what
units,
the
okay.
breakdown was. Yeah.
Being somewhat nosy, I live right nearby. I bike by that. It looks like you ran into a little problem in the beginning there where you had to turn over all the soil, et cetera. Because that used to be the rumor was that was where the chopped trees went from the earliest clearing.
We fortunately are not the ones who have had to deal with this.
Okay.
As part of the purchase contract, the seller has been taking care of this.
Okay.
What they found out is during the original development of the town center, there was a lot of stuff buried by the contractor. It was not just fill that had chunks of roots and trees, but in some areas they also didn't strip the land before they filled it. So all of that has to be removed, so you
Right.
can take the strippings out and then put it back
Well,
in.
it looks great now.
Yeah, it's been a real big challenge for them, and they've been super great to work with, and they're taking care of it like champs.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
No, I just want to make sure we understand what we're being asked to approve here today, which is finance. Sounds like it's financing.
Well, we're not approving financing.
Not
We're-
approving, but-
We're approving the authority for them to operate within our jurisdiction so that they can
Okay.
do the finance, the builder can borrow, and they can do it in a tax-free manner because they're supporting affordable housing, is the bottom line. But, I'm sorry.
You're
Go ahead,
absolutely
Ralston.
correct, Mr. Chair. That's exactly correct. The financing, if approved, would come through the Volusia Housing Finance Authority. And so the request here is to approve the area of operation, authorizing Volusia Housing Finance Authority to issue those bonds within your jurisdiction.
And the site plan and all the other work is all the city.
Correct. It's in the city of Palm
Palm
Coast.
Coast. Yes, sir.
The city
Yeah.
responsibilities been ours.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 8B.
Second.
Okay, we'll open it up to public comment.
Jane Gentile. I hope that this board, I don't know if I understand all the ramifications. I would totally ask the board to not approve any building that is 3-story walk-up without an elevator. I have COPD, and a lot of other people are older than I am, have COPD younger. I don't think there should be any building anywhere in Flagler County that requires anybody to walk up 3 flights of steps without having an elevator. Secondly, there was one other thing that really concerned me about this. 4 stories is fine with an elevator. I wish you would limit the construction to 4 stories with an elevator or 3 stories with an elevator. Thank you.
Any other public comments? And Ms. Yuda, I'll just want to clarify for you. Your points are well taken, but it's totally within the jurisdiction of the city of Palm Coast. This is their, this is within their, it's their property. It's within their boundaries. So, yes, ma'am.
Denise Calderwood, citizen of Palm Coast and a resident of Flagler County. Thank you very much for developers for coming to Flagler County. We desperately need more apartments, but what I've cautioned them when they went to the Affordable Housing Committee is to please consider lowering the rents. The average Social Security check in Flagler County is $885, okay? Those behind the library, there are 8 senior citizens who live behind the library currently that I've been doing the case management. 3 of them are getting $775. They cannot afford any place in Flagler County. There is waiting lists for every apartment here. We have tried to get the Flagler County Social Services to help those people be located in Volusia County, and we're told we can't use our dollars to do that, even though they have affordable housing at $600 a month. Okay, the people who live behind the library can afford that. The point is we're building now. People are coming to Flagler County. We don't have our resources. We don't have our agreements where we can still utilize services in Volusia County. We need to be able to do cross-function, so you all approving the Volusia Finance to do bonds here is a fantastic idea. Please support it, but also hold these people accountable since they're the developers of 3 other projects in Flagler County as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this item? Not, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, none. That motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item 8C is consideration of building and county training facilities to be used for temporarily storing the Flagler County Sheriff's Office evidence and crime scene processing unit operations. So,
Welcome.
welcome, Ms. Petito.
Good morning. Heidi Petito, General Services Director. I brought some backup with me this time. Before you today is consideration of building some county training facilities. As you may recall, back in May of 2017, the county purchased property along Justice Lane. It sits directly across from the current fire tower. It was intended at that time that this property would be developed and it would be used for training. The plan was that there would be a qualifying range and some classroom space that could be jointly utilized by law enforcement as well as fire rescue. What we're asking for now as part of that capital plan is we're asking, due to the sheriff's need for additional storage of evidence and crime scene processing, what we're asking to do now is to expedite the construction of that classroom space so that the sheriff can use that for his temporary storage needs. And then at a time where he no longer needs that for storage, it would be converted back to its intended use, which is classrooms for training.
Commissioners?
And Ms. Petito, will it also house the officers that conduct the crime scene investigations? Will it be their office as well?
It will be. It was
Okay, good.
intended when we
That's
did the
good.
design
That's a
that
good
it would
idea.
be.
I like that.
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Petito, just, Mr. Chairman, the last time it was brought forward, we didn't have much advance warning on this, and with all the problems that are going on with the Sheriff's Operations Center, I've been one of the ones saying, let's get a plan together to get the bigger problem solved. And so my feeling was temporary fixes are not what I was looking for. I'm looking for kind of a master plan. I understand what's going on with this now, and I think we are making progress towards a bigger plan that will be coming forth shortly, I hope. So I'm not going to be against this time because I think I understand better what's going on at this point.
What would be the approximate finish date?
When we were looking at it, we were originally thinking it was only going to take about 3 months, 3.5 months tops. So,
Do we own all that land on that road coming in from the?
not all of it, but you have a little over 8.5 acres.
Okay, both sides
So
of the
pretty
road.
much from that turn.
Maybe
on the
they could
opposite
maybe
side.
they could straighten the road out a little bit.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
So, I mean, it is big enough to put a pistol range, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Did either of you gentlemen want to add anything? I see you're sitting next to each other, so, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I want to say that and the other reason that I'm approving it now, or in favor of it now, is that this would have been built to some degree, even if we hadn't had the Sheriff's Operations Center problem.
Correct.
It's just that we're double duty, we're speeding it up so we can use it for the evidence now.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve item 8C.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll open it up to public comment on this item. Anyone from the public wish to speak on item 8C? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 8D is consideration of appointment to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. And we have two names before us, and we have Ms. Christy Mayer to guide us through.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Christy Mayer, County Administration Office. You have two applicants for the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee under the title of Labor Home Building Industry Representative, and they are Ms. Tammy Markey and Mr. William Pierce. And I don't think either one of them were able to make the meeting this morning. Mr. Pierce did have another obligation, business obligation. Chairman, the ballots reflect that Ms. Tammy Markey is elected to this position.
Thank you, Christy.
Okay, thank you. I guess we need a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman, I move that we approve the appointment of Ms. Tammy Markey to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I would just like to say, Commissioners, I know Ms. Markey. She worked for me, actually, she doesn't any longer. She's retired from our company, but she worked for a long time for our company, and she comes from a pretty well-known, very nice, good family here in Flagler County for a lot of years. So I think she'll be a good addition to the group. So
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Looks like that concludes our general business items. We'll move on to public hearings, which we do not have any. And then item 10 on our agenda is our reports and comments. So, Mr. Cameron?
I have none, sir.
Okay. Mr. Hadid?
Yes. Oops. Is it on? No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anything, commissioners, for action this morning?
No, sir.
Erickson?
No.
Well, just that we want to keep the pressure on. Four of us were in Tallahassee last week talking about our efforts to bring back as much support from the legislature for our desires. I won't go through all of them, but the judge, getting the additional judge is a big deal. And there was some encouragement there from our elected representatives on that. And so I think that's, we want to, the action would be to keep the pressure up. This is a critical time now as they're finalizing the budget and the various bills they're going to pass.
Okay. I don't have anything for action. So if we're fine there, we'll just move on to community outreach. And again, this is a 30-minute time period allocated for public comment for items not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. Thank you.
Jane Gentile, Youth Plantation Bay. There's something going on today in Tallahassee about the vacation rental taking away county authority. And I can't believe Mr. Hadid, who was so gung-ho saving us, has had nothing to comment. I'm also very concerned, and I would like to know through the chair from the county administrator, if Aeromod is going to be coming to meet as originally proposed to work to see if they could build a new wastewater plant at under $3 million as opposed to $10 million. I'd like an answer to that, Mr. Chairman. Thirdly, we turned in a petition. We are your constituents. I've never in my life heard the petition to protect the health and welfare of the residents of Plantation Bay by halting the issuance of any and all current DEP permits, which are beyond your control, and all Flagler County permits to any builders. That would allow hookups and usage to the Flagler County utility system until the system meets all statutory requirements of FDEP St. John's Water Management, as well as approval of Florida Rural Water Association, while taking into consideration confirmed capacity for future growth. The majority, all of the petition signatures were turned into you. You haven't addressed this. This was before the accident last week. And Mr. O'Brien, I know this may have happened before. One of my questions was not answered. Who from DEP assured the county that we are safe? I don't care if it happened 1 million times before. Your two things you assume in life, taxes and death. Everything else should be proven. And the other thing, I am insisting on an answer as to when you're going to put the petition issue on the agenda. Somebody has to answer the citizens when they petition. Or do we have to go like Bing's Landing and start advertising in Flagler Live before we get attention? Why is Maury Husseini allowed to do anything he wants in Flagler County? And he advertises that all of Plantation Bay is in Volusia County. And you talk about other things that are important. What about the health, welfare, and safety? And Mr. Hadid, that is your responsibility too. I don't want to hear about any DRI garbage. You allowed Craig Coffey to convince the commissioners. You're the attorney. It was your fault we're in this mess to begin with.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Good morning, Commissioners. Ed Fuller, Palm Coast. Honorable Chair Don O'Brien, Honorable Commissioners. That's great news about that judge. And I just want to keep something on your radar that I was here before the Commissioner 2 years ago, and I'll be there till I die, is that Veterans Treatment Court. If we can get that judge, perhaps we can get that Veterans Treatment Court here. Just on your radar, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and God bless you for your service.
Denise Calderwood, Palm Coast resident who happens to live on Buttermill Drive, not even 2 miles away from the homeless camp, and a person who has been called an enabler and called everything under the sun. Right now, you should be calling me a case manager for Flagler County. Since last week, my phone has been ringing off the hook, and I have had nothing but complaints and negative comments said about Flagler County Social Services and how people cannot access services, don't get return phone calls. And, you know, I hear the commissioners saying that the social services is doing a bang-up job. I mean, I think Heidi Petito's staff is doing, and Heidi herself is doing a more bang-up job than social services. They have a great way of ignoring people. They, you know, at 8 o'clock this morning, well, since Wednesday, I had personally been calling social services and never received a phone call back. So 8 o'clock this morning, I went in to try to access services for 4 of the homeless people who were in crisis over the week from the library, okay, and still didn't get any reaction. I was told that the director had to leave for a 9 o'clock meeting, so I stayed there and finally got a couple of answers. Karen from Flagler County Paramedicine saved the life of 2 homeless people who were living behind the library. They had blood sugar levels over 480 for a three-day period of time, and one of them had access to a car. So we're very lucky in Flagler County that something did not happen on our roads. Basically, why I'm trying to tell you that, the one person was hospitalized 3 different times this week, okay, and let go. And she did not have insulin given to her because the Flagler Free Clinic doesn't provide the insulin. The health department's program doesn't provide the insulin that she was assigned. So I got a hold of the hospital and got the social worker to meet with Karen, and then we found Dr. Bickle from the health department who was willing to look at her medicine and actually get it changed to what we can give her free. And that all it took was 3 different people in making the individual connections to help that person. And I'm proud to say today that she has a normal blood sugar and she's, you know, safe, and she's got 2 more doctor's appointments. Okay, but that's cobbling together what resources we currently have in our community. 40 seconds left. Goodwill. They own their own building. They own that whole entire acreage of land here. With the program for job training for Goodwill, our Flagler County residents have to go to Jacksonville. Okay, 2 years ago, we placed 3 homeless people there in Jacksonville. They relocated, and of course, if everybody's goal is to move our homeless away from their own county, that's fine. Flagler County Social Services placed Apple. She was in the newspaper. You know, Sean Ryan interviewed her. She's now in Longwood. She broke her hip. We put her in the neighborhood center in St. John. In Volusia County. She broke her hip while she was there. She has no insurance. My phone rang off the hook. She still didn't have her medicine until today, after I made contact with people in Orange County as well as Volusia County. Flagler County says they're not responsible for her. So I guess that's what we do. We're handing our people off. If that's the case, then fine, let's continue to do that. Keep putting our head in the sand. But you all are responsible for it. And if it keeps falling on me, there will be other action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise. Any other speakers this morning? Seeing none, I'll close the community outreach portion. Just take a stab at a couple things. With respect to the vacation rentals, the other commissioners and myself are closely monitoring the legislation as it's moving through the House and the Senate. We talk with our lobbyist on a regular basis regarding that, and it was at our request that Mr. Hadid stay close to home and work on a lot of other pressing issues and not let us be the front folks as far as our battle against preemption on vacation rentals. And it's our read at this point that our bulwark on this is going to be on the Senate side, and we feel pretty confident that it's going to get blocked on the Senate side or not taken up. So we think we'll skirt by another year on that. And if any of the commissioners wanted to dispute that, you know.
No, I think we're in very good shape, and it should be noted that last year the Florida Association of Counties took the lead. This year, the Florida League of Cities is taking the lead on the effort, and they are well positioned to do this. And Mr. Chairman, you're exactly right. The action will be in the Senate, and our senator has it for action. I should point out that the chairman and I sat down with the president of the Senate's senior staff, the guy who runs the whole Senate, and we briefed him on our position and where we stood, and I think we have an advocate there. So I think we're watching it, as you said. We'll be ready to go.
And we've also got some lobbyists that aren't bashful.
Exactly.
That's
Yes, sir. With respect to Aeromod, do we have a meeting scheduled with that company?
Yes, sir. At the direction of the commission, we did reach out to them, and we have set a meeting for April the 15th, which will include myself, the county engineer, the general services director, in order to see what they are proposing. Once we have a clearer idea of exactly what they're proposing and how well it will meet our needs, we can come back and give you a report on that.
Thank you. With respect to the spillage, our requirement or the contractor's requirement is to notify DEP, and then if there's going to be any additional action or testing or whatever, that's the call of DEP to make. Can you please clarify, because I don't know that I understand.
Yes, if DEP had thought that there had needed to be something done other than the actions that were, the protocols that were implemented for that, they would have notified us. Now, who made the comments from DEP, I have no knowledge of that whatsoever. They certainly didn't make them to us or to me. And the follow-up by them, I assume they're satisfied with what was done. This is probably the equivalent of after the materials were removed largely and the treatment, it'd be very similar to a large septic tank. And it's not the kind of thing that ran off into the marsh or something that would have caused a lot of concern with DEP, or it wasn't an ongoing leakage over a period of time.
Yes, sir. With respect to the petitions, I do not care to comment on those. I don't know if any of the other commissioners do. Okay.
Not at this time, but I have one more.
Okay, so we'll go to commission reports or comments. Erickson?
Well, we had a successful night at Motown over at the school, et cetera, and that went over, had a good time. Colleen didn't drop any cakes this year, so she behaved herself, et cetera. But we had a good time over at Carver Gym.
I'll second that. It was a great time. I got to do the auction. It was great. It was a lot of fun, and we raised a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, and well, we had a good auctioneer there.
Yeah,
he was
Did a good job.
tough
You
on
did a
some
good
of those cakes.
And the cakes tasted good. I had one, I should have brought this up earlier, but I didn't want to let this meeting go by. When we had the briefing about the design for the bridge, the trail bridge across 100, sometimes people get misled on money. The money for that bridge is not something coming out of our ad valorem taxes. And maybe if Mr. Cameron could just talk to that's money coming from FDOT that's been in the pipeline for quite a long time. And we're not asking the taxpayers, as far as I'm concerned, just to clarify that, for money for that particular effort.
That is my understanding. I wasn't here when the original agreement was made. Laurie may be able to speak more plainly to the details, but my understanding is that's not ad valorem money.
Right, I just want to make that clear so it doesn't start a rumor that way.
Anything else, Commissioners? No.
No, thanks.
I don't have anything for this morning, so.
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion, we have a second
Second.
for adjournment. We're adjourned. Thank you.